Welcome to my sewing room. Heirloom sewing includes many different elements, some of which I'm going to share with you today that you might not thought of as heirloom sewing until today. Embellishing jackets is one of my very favorite things to do. This jacket is absolutely exquisite. It's done on a crushed velveteen and velvet. It has this beautiful free motion angel embroidered on it. Do you see all of the couching that goes down the front, couching with all different types of fibers? And there are some beautiful pearls stitched down. Let me show you the back. It is just as beautiful as the front. Good looking couching is what this jacket primarily consists, the embellishment consists of. I wonder how many of you have done any weaving. This is a wonderful jacket with the weaving done on a print fabric, and look at the silk ribbon embroidery on the collar. Then let me move this collar over a little bit so you can see the weaving. It is done with fabric as well as with yarns. Absolutely magnificent colors which pick up the little print, a very Victorian print I might add, on the jacket. This jacket is just really a real classic jacket. It has couching all over, done in several really brilliant colors, and then one of these fake leather fabrics on the other side. Isn't that gorgeous? This is a wonderful jacket for fall. It just reminds me of football games, except, you know, I don't even know if people dress up much for football games anymore. But this has all kinds of good-looking embellishment applique. But the couching is one of the things we're going to work with today. And I just really think that you might want to have some art fashion also. Come along with me over to the technique boards, and I'm going to share with you how easy it is to do some of these techniques. Couching a vest is so much fun to do because it's just so easy. Speaking of vests, my vest is one of the ones that is part of the pattern series that goes with this television series, and I have a collar with couching on my vest. Here's another one of my vests. This one just has all kinds of interesting couching over and around and looping, all kinds of different fibers and different shapes, and comes all the way down the front of my brown vest. Now, what is couching, for those of you that have not had the fun of doing this yet? Well, it's embellishing. It's really sewing down fibers onto a piece of fabric. The stitches that I use, several are different stitches. And by the way, don't let me forget, you use your transparent or translucent thread, one that you can't see through. All right, here we go. That you can see through, I'm sorry. Zigzag is a great stitch, blind hem, blanket stitch, overcast stitch, or any number of different decorative stitches. I bet you feel like you've gone to Girl Scout camp to the craft department now. This is more fun. Here are shiny fibers. Here's a fuzzy one. Here's a kind of a woolly one. Here's one with feathers on it. These are all different types of fibers, including sequins and pearls and more sequins. Every bit of those can be used for couching. Now, this is a great idea. In some of their fabric stores, you'll have packages that pull together a beautiful palette of colors, dark colors, light colors, the monochromatic scheme. And over here, here's shiny, here's shinier, all kinds of different threads. You can even use ribbons, and this is sort of a suede ribbon, and you can even use just plain old polyester ribbon. And you say, now, well, that surely is a pretty vest you have on, Martha, but how in the world do you do that couching? That's really not something that I have done yet. Well, it's nice to have a foot that has a little groove for the couching, a cording foot, that has a little groove for the couching to run through, but I think you could do some couching without that foot. You know what I'm going to do? It's real hard to do. Oh, it's so hard. Basic zigzag. I'm going to put this wonderful shiny purple fiber in here, and I'm just going to zigzag over it, and I can just turn corners. If I want to make this into a circle, I'm just going to turn corners. Oh, I'm just going to really have fun here. I'm going to go all the way around the place. And that is all there is to couching. You simply put your wonderful, fabulous fiber underneath there, or thread, or fuzzy wuzzy, or whatever you'd like to stitch down, and then you just zigzag it down. And I have some other really great vest embellishments for you next. To embellish my vest, well, actually I just embellished the collar of the vest. It was so easy to do. Let me just share with you how. Here is my velveteen collar, and so I take the different fibers, and I have such a nice selection, and just kind of over and twist them around. And here's one little thing to be real careful of. If you want something to go into the seam allowance, be sure you pull it on down there, and if you want it to be out of the seam allowance, be sure you miss the seam allowance. Here is the selection of fibers that I used and threads. Here's one that's kind of shiny, and then here's some that have all the pretty matching colors. There is another vest in the series, or the shorter version of this vest in the series, that I think is really fabulous and very interesting. This one is made of 1/8 inch ribbons, which are woven. And I'll show you how this was done in a minute. Do you see this little trim that comes right along here? It almost looks like rope that's made out of the same ribbons. Well, I'm going to show you how to do that in a second too. Moving on over here to the upper section of this vest is a beautiful embellishment that looks like ropes that have been twisted around, and it comes down here with all the little ribbons hanging down. Well, that's easy to make also. Now, how do you weave this particular vest? First of all, I use a ribbon bodkin, which makes the ribbon just not slip out. Here he's got two little holes. I'm going to thread it here, and then I come through here and thread it here, and then it'll just kind of hold when you weave. And this fiber I'm using is an athletic mesh. Now that I'm going to go over and under and over and under and over and under, and then I'm going to pull through, being very careful not to twist the ribbon because it's got to lay nice and flat. And that this bodkin really makes the ribbon weaving very easy to do. Now, this is going to be so much fun. When I first saw this at my office, I thought, oh my goodness, somebody here is planning on going fishing. What in the world do we have this fishing equipment in a sewing office? Well, they quickly explained to me what this fishing equipment is. This beautiful weavy trim here, the one I showed you on the woven vest, the green woven vest a minute ago, this is a gorgeous looking braid, really pretty. And you don't go to the store and buy that. You make it by using this fishing rod. Now, here, let's have some fun. I hold the fishing rod down. I attach all different types of ribbons to the red hook right here, and I've got it also pinned up here at the top, and I have a knot tied up here and a knot tied down here. Now let's just see, the lazy days of summer, I'm going fishing right here. I just twist it just like I'm pulling in a fish, just like I did in Belize a few weeks ago. I actually caught my first fish. You can twist it as tightly as you want to, but then I'm going to pull it half and half, kind of divide it, and watch. It twists up on itself and makes the neatest ribbon trim, and that's how we made that trim. Okay, now here's how you take this trim and do something with it beautiful. This is buckram, and I've drawn a little design on it. I take my trim and kind of pin it around, bring it around, and come on around, make it as small or as large as you want to, and give it a little pin right here and hang on to it. Then I cut it out, and this buckram is what I'm going to stitch it to. In other words, I'm going to hand stitch it. I have my needle and thread threaded up here, but you also could machine stitch it as long as you remember to use the invisible thread. So I stitch it onto the buckram, and after I stitch it onto the buckram, see, here's what it looks like because that nice stiff buckram is on the back. I now have my embellishment ready to stitch by hand or machine onto my vest. Now this particular vest, I didn't really want to weave on this one, so what I did, I kind of cheated a little bit. This fabric looks as if it's woven. It looks as if it has tiny little ribbons that went through to weave it. And so I'm going to take this over here as I have done, pin it into place, and then I will hand or machine stitch it. And that is another, I think, really interesting embellishment for vest. And by the way, the vests in our patterns run from a size 6 to a size 28. I wanted to be sure that all of us would have a vest that would really look nice on us. Next, I have a really wonderful silk ribbon stitch by hand for you. I'm so happy today to have as my guest Beverly Sheldrick from New Zealand. Beverly has authored a book on needlework called Colonial Inspirations, and she has been a leading designer in both So Beautiful and Fancy Work magazines. Beverly, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. Today, I would like to show your viewers a hussif. Now this is a very beautiful thing to hold all your bits and pieces for your sewing. So over this series I'm going to be showing you how to make all the various different little pockets that are in this, and also the various stitches. So we have here the front, we then have this lovely bow here, and we open it out. We have here a little holder to put your packets of needles. We have here, this is just for your ordinary needles. We have a thimble caddy, a seam ripper for pins, a tape measure holder just in here. This one is for a needle threader, scissors, a pencil holder, and a marker pen. Now the stitch that we're going to look at today is this little dragonfly which we have here, and you will have noticed that it's on the lids of all the wee pockets. So here we go, how to make them. You will see we have a straight stitch, we then have a little French knot to form the head, we have a second colour which forms the part of the wings, and then a third colour which forms the second lot of wings. So here we go, there's the finished piece. You will see here that I have put the body in like that. I've then come up and I'm going to do the head, which is just a French knot, like so. Then we take the first of these colours, come up like this. We're going to do a split stitch, and do remember to put a certain amount of length, because as you know, dragonflies have quite a short body, and then they have these very wide wings like this. Then the next colour along here like this, and then make these little wings just a little bit shorter and make them very close to that first wing there. And there we are. And the last thing, of course, we need some eyes. This poor little dragonfly needs to be able to see how to get his way.
What kind of a needle are you using?
I'm just normally, I would use a 24 chenille. Isn't it always the way? It does this to me.
Well, you know what? At least we know you're normal, Beverly.
I think it's called Murphy's Law, don't you? I'm not going to fizzle with that. You need a French knot here and here to give him the eyes so that he can see. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make the outside of the hussif. You will see I have a piece of fabric here, I have a piece of lightweight batting behind it. I have put a bow here, we've just laid the silk ribbon on top, and it's been French knotted into place, giving it a really good wiggle. We've done the same thing here using a 7mm ribbon and put our wee butterfly. We've put a piping all the way round, and we've put here we have feather stitching just to hold the two pieces of fabric together so that it doesn't walk when you're folding it up. Now the inside, we have, this is the inner piece here. You will see that we have two zippers. One is put here, it's face to face, the other one is here, and this becomes the pocket because we have one on each side. We then turn this back like that, take a folded piece of fabric like this, and that is put on there. It's first stitched down by machine here, and then we will put a row of feather stitching just to make it look beautiful. Now the last thing that we need to do is we have to take another piece of fabric, and you will notice that these other pieces that I had here were all fused with an iron-on fusing. These pieces that become the underneath are not fused, and they go on the back like that, and you'll see on this one here how I have just used my sewing machine to zigzag it on top there, so that this back piece goes right over, right across the back and caught there. Now, wasn't that easy?
Oh, Beverly, that really is beautiful. And this, now, hussif, that's a term that we don't use a lot. So hussif means something to hold all your bits and pieces for sewing?
Martha, it's a very, very old English term. It comes from the word housewife. And of course, over the years, it's become shortened, so now it's called a hussif. And it's something which has been made in many different forms. This is more the true embroiderer's hussif. I've just done it to suit today's world.
Oh, that was so beautiful, and I like that little dragonfly too. Thank you, Beverly. And now I have a home decorating pillow for you. Another wonderful use for couching is on this really unusual pillow I have for you. The fabric we've decided to call crinkled organza, and it's kind of a shiny organza. You buy it already crinkled up like this. I think it's quite elegant. Now the little gathered ribbon across here is gathered silk ribbon, and can you see the couching that is in the middle of that gathered silk ribbon? Okay, let's make this pillow. I want to tell you that during the whole series, you're going to see me using these little sticks to hold with, which are quite wonderful. And when you go by the grocery store, you might want to pick up a package of these. It's called 6-inch bamboo skewers, and there are about 3,022. And no, I'm just kidding. Got a lot in this package. Anyway, it'll probably last you forever, but they're great for holding. Now, to make the gathered ribbon, this is silk ribbon. I'm going to run a straight row of gathering right down the middle, and then I will push the gathers up, and that makes my gathered silk ribbon. I'm going to stitch the silk ribbon with this beautiful twinkly thread couched down in the middle, but I really can't draw a design on this crinkly fabric very well. So I went underneath to the lining and drew my design off on the lining, and this crinkly fabric, you can see right through it, so that really won't be a problem. Now then, I'm going to kind of pin down the ribbon. You remember I have the gathered ribbon. I'm going to come along here, and you do have to use this little stick and kind of straighten it out. You see what I'm doing there, and then pin it down. Now then, when I'm going to go on the other side to start my other part of the diamond, I'm going to pin it along here, come down here. Now, when I cross over, or the area that's going to be crossed over, kind of straighten that out flat a little bit, otherwise it'll just be too fluffy. Now let me just see how we're going to do the couching. All right, under this foot you go. All righty, I'm going to lower the presser foot. I have two of these really pretty metallic threads. One of them is almost in a pink and one of them is in a gold. And I'm going to very carefully get in here with my wooden shish kebab stick and straighten out the ribbon which has been gathered. I'm doing just a little zigzag, and I'm zigzagging. Let me get the pins out here. I'm zigzagging the two rows of threads, which I'll just hold in the middle. There's nothing really holding them except me. I don't have on a cording foot or anything, and I'm zigzagging. By the way, be sure and remember to use invisible thread, because you don't want to see threads over this absolutely wonderful shiny threads. Out with the pins. Come on down, zigzag, and you see now then I'm couching, but this time I was couching over gathered silk ribbon. You see, that's what I did. My two little rows of wonderful metallic thread couched down right over the silk ribbon. And next I have a really interesting craft for you. These are two of the cutest pin cushions I have ever seen. I got the idea for this little pin cushion which hangs on the wall, maybe in your bedroom or in your dressing room, from the window of an antique store in Paris. The antique store was closed, so I couldn't go in and buy the little pin cushion, but I did sketch it out. And here's what it looked like. This is a little pink version, And it has a little cardboard base with lace gathered around. Of course, this is to stick your pins in. And I think it's really cute. It really looks like a little hat with the veil hanging down in the back. And of course, lots of ribbons. We also made up a little green version for those of you that love green in your decorating scheme. Now, how is this little hat made? Very simply. First of all, you cut a round piece of cardboard. And we did this out of silk dupioni, but you could use any fabric. Then got a round piece of silk dupioni, ran gathering threads through it, and that's the base of the little hat. Now we got another piece of round silk dupioni, and on that same trip to Paris, I bought some scraps. Actually, these were just all in a big bag, and I bought the whole bag not even knowing what was in it. But this is a wonderful piece of antique French lace with dots on it. So I took some of this antique lace and cut a circle. And now this is going to be the crown of my hat, and I stuffed this with cotton, although, you know, you might even stuff it with potpourri or anything you wanted to. I've already run the gathering row, so I'm going to gather it up and bring it around here and make a little ball out of it, and then I will hot glue gun it to the top of the hat. Now then, the next step would be to gather the French lace all the way around and kind of glue it in also. And then here is the little veil that goes down. Really, it wasn't a veil, but on turn-of-the-century hats, it was quite popular to have something that looked like a veil hanging down in the back. So you put your veil underneath here, as we've done right here. You can see all of those steps are already finished. And then comes the fun. We have some little silk ribbon roses that we can hot glue gun. By the way, hot glue gun the whole thing together. Silk ribbon roses, and of course the final touch comes when you glue or tie or stitch your ribbons on, and then you have an absolutely adorable pin cushion to hang in your dressing room, on your bedroom, or even in your little girl's room. Now won't you come along with me to my attic, where I have a wonderful antique garment for you. This blouse has beautiful details, and my two most favorite are the arches and the leaves. You can see we have the traditional high collar, and then come on over here to the sleeves with me. Now this little leaf figure hangs right in the middle of the sleeve. Isn't that beautiful? The leaf, and it has the gathered lace that goes around the edges. Now then, let's come on down, and the blouse also has another leaf figure right in the middle, and then this is a very unusual shape. It has an arch. The lace insertion makes an arch, and then right again in the middle on the next row of insertion is another arch. Quite an unusual blouse. For our Sewing from the Heart segment, I have a really beautiful letter from the Long Island chapter of the Smocking Arts Guild of America. My two ladies that wrote say, our We Care Committee has approximately 12 ladies who gather together to produce over 330 infant gowns for 6 local hospitals. The girls' gowns are smocked and the boys are hand embroidered. Since fabric and laces are very expensive, we raise the money to purchase them by having a doll raffle each year. Last year, to increase our raffle sales, I asked the lady in charge of my local bowling alley if I could sell chances during our league bowling time. When I explained the purpose of the We Care Committee, she began to cry and said that she had lost a daughter 2 days after birth 46 years ago. She had never held her child, and to that day hadn't really spoken about the baby because people in those days, she said, people told her just go home and forget about it. She said she wished there had been something like this for her daughter. Needless to say, when I relayed this story to the rest of the We Care Committee, they decided to present her with a We Care gown. She was so touched and wrote that for the first time in 46 years, she felt that someone had acknowledged her daughter's existence and her own sense of loss. The tiny gown was framed, and Anne felt a sense of peace she has not known in 46 years. We know that this work does make a difference in people's lives. Sincerely, Liz Dragon and Nancy Van Dyke, seminar chair people, and this is from the Long Island chapter of the Smocking Arts Guild of America. Sewing for the less fortunate or for people in times of need is one of the most wonderful things you can do. Thank you for coming to my sewing room today, and I hope you'll join me next time.